Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Woodcrafts by Design shop. I'm Joshua Iverson, and on today's tool topic, I'm going to be discussing adjustable shelves and the system I use to produce that function inside cabinetry. The system I use is Festool's LR-32 hole drilling system. Before I go into my review of the LR-32 hole drilling system, I'd like to give a brief history of the systems I have used in the past to make shelves adjustable in cabinetry. Starting off very early, I just was using basically a drill press, marking out every individual hole on the cabinet side and then drilling them with the drill press. Needless to say, this method was very labor intensive and very painstaking to do. Took a long time. The next step up from there, I purchased one of those plexiglass templates, either from Rockler or Eagle America back in the day, which basically you used a router with a bushing guide on there, and the bushing guide would seat in each individual hole, and then you just press down in the router to produce the hole for the shelf pin. And that process was okay. It was a bit tedious because every time you went to the next hole, you had to line up the bushing just perfectly to sit in the hole, which kind of took a little bit time. But the process was quite a bit faster than laying them all out and then drilling them on a drill press. From there, after graduating college and getting my last job at a professional cabinetry shop, the system that they used was actually a bloom press machine, which it's a multifunction machine made by Bloom and fully pneumatic. Basically, slide the cabinet side into the machine, use the manual stops, push the button, it would clamp it down and drill 7 holes all at once. So it was relatively quick. It was a nice system to use. It had its own issues. If you didn't align the fence just right with the machine, your holes could be off skewed just a little bit, which then created that rocking problem you get when you put a shelf in and the pins aren't slightly, they're just slightly out of level, out of parallel, and the shelf will rock. So it had its own issues, and if you weren't careful with where the stops were sitting, and things would move, and if you weren't watching the dust that got behind the fence and the side of the cabinet, you could actually wind up with holes that were actually skewed, not in a straight line running down the side of the cabinet side. So I worked with that machine for 5.5 years, and it did okay. It was a nice machine, a very expensive machine. And after I left there to pursue my own dreams of doing my own cabinetry shop here, I looked into different systems again because I did not have a system of my own that I really liked. And that is what led me to the Festool LR-32 system. The LR-32 hole drilling system by Festool is basically comprised of 3 separate pieces you have to buy to make the entire system work. The main part of the system, which comes in a sustainer, is basically all the bits and pieces you need to make the guide plate and the router work together to create your hole drilling system. The system is comprised of the bits and pieces, which are the adjustable guides that attach to the track, the stops here on the end, and then the actual guide plate that slides across the track that the router attaches to. The router is bought separately. It doesn't come part of the kit, and I will be doing a review later on routers and such at a later date, so this review isn't necessarily on this router. The LR-32 system works, I believe, with 3 different routers made by Festool, and I'm not sure if you could adapt a non-Festool router to work with this system. Now, the LR-32 system is actually designed to be a total hole drilling system where basically it creates holes on a 32 millimeter basis, 32 millimeters apart. And the whole concept of this system is that you're able to take the 2 different router bits that come with the system and basically lay this out in such a way that you can create European frameless cabinets using this system and this system alone. My purpose is I do not use it for that. The only purpose I have this for is to drill adjustable shelf holes in the sides of cabinets. This system I have found works extremely well. It's extremely precise, and it almost is on par with the efficiency of the Bloom machine that I had at their shop. And basically it boils down to, you have a stop, which you put at a certain position. You put it right up against the top of your or bottom of your cabinet. Then you adjust your guides for the rail system to bring it in and out from the side. That adjusts the depth of your holes from the outside of the cabinet inward. Then the guide itself slides along, which creates all your holes in a straight line, one at a time. Now this feature is great because it allows you the flexibility of being able to drill holes in exactly the place that you want them to be, one at a time. Unlike the Bloom machine I'd used before, where it drilled 7 holes, you're stuck with 7 holes. If you don't need 7 holes, or you want slightly different spacing, you can't do that with that machine without like removing bits and doing all major changes to the machine. Whereas the functionality on this is very easy to adjust in and out, up and down. The 5mm bit inside the router set to the depth of the pin that I use for this system, and they just slide right in the hole at the perfect depth. And that's basically what all this router does. Now you may be asking, what's the deal with the track? This track is a special track made by Festool. It's basically identical to the TS55 track that you get, the FS 1400/2. The only difference is this is an FS 1400/2-LR-32, and what that means is, if you can see in the video, there's actually holes every 32mm along this rail, and what those do is let the slide basically get locked into one of those holes, and then you use this to adjust it to the next hole. And then that creates your adjustable shelf holes. Now the system in the guide plate itself has a little viewing window right there, which is great. And what I learned to do, I kind of figured out on my own, trying to make this repeatable. If you have a kitchen and you have 14 sides, for cabinets, that's a lot of holes, and you got to remember to drill the same exact set of holes in every cabinet. And what I've learned to do, this is kind of a tip I'm passing along, is I found center on the track here, which actually falls between 2 holes, and mark them with numbers that fall within that viewing window. So I have here 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, and then going the other way, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18. And since 90% of the time the holes you're going to fall, are going to fall on both sides of that center point, I basically figure out which holes I'm going to use, where I'm going to drill from this point to this point. And on this cabinet it happens to be from 9 on this side to 19 on this side. So basically, and then I write that down right here on the side of on the back of the cabinet where it won't get seen. So I go 9 with an arrow pointing that way, and 19 with an arrow pointing that way, and that reminds me that, okay, 9 to 19. Now, like most of all Festool stuff, because this is based on a 32mm system, all the markings on here on the slides are all in metric. The adjustable stops on the ends are also in metric, and they have varied spacing on here. Like the one that I always use, it's marked 16, so 16mm, and they have raised stops on here that fit inside the hole, so you get a consistent thing every time, setting every time. On the back side there's 32. So there is some drawbacks to this system. Yes, it's all done by hand. There are some things I don't like about it. You know, the knobs on these particular adjusters are kind of a pain to use. They're kind of small and they're hard for me to turn with my big lumpy fingers. Other than that, the system is pretty good. I wish the stopper bar that they gave you for the tops, you know, to make the stop at the top, I wish they were a little bit thicker, because like on this cabinet side, it's a wall cabinet and it has a flush top on it. There's a 1/2 inch dado up here that accepts the cabinet top. And this particular side that I have in front of us now, I actually screwed up on yesterday when I drilled all these holes. What happens if you're not paying attention is the stop, instead of sitting on the very top of the cabinet, will actually raise up and slide down that 1/2 inch inside to that, in that rabbet, and then all your holes wind up being a 1/2 inch off, which is what happened here. This side, the back side of the cabinet here, the holes are in the right place, and in the front they're not. And unfortunately this is not a fixable situation, so I've already made a replacement piece and got it drilled and dadoed to replace this one, so it's already completed. Overall, general, I love this system. I like the fact that it makes everything repeatable. So like in this situation, I screwed up on this side because, you know, my fault. I wasn't paying attention. It lets me make a whole new cabinet side, even if I've already adjusted all this stuff, you know, move the slides up and down for other cabinet sides. I don't really change this other than just to change which end it's on. So I'm always drilling, you know, it's always set at the top of the cabinet. But it makes it repeatable. I was able to make that new cabinet side, put everything pretty much back the way it was. I knew which holes I drilled from 9 to 19, shot it out, and it's done. It's all repeatable, which is great. Sometimes you can't get that with some of these other systems. The other thing I like is the precision of it. You know, using this big long rail that they, you know, for their Festool system, it allows it to basically all your holes get drilled in the same line. You know, it's not like the Blue machine where you drill 7 holes and then you have to shift 7 holes, shift. You know, and if you run out of space, like on the Blue machine, I believe, if I remember right, there was three manual stops to the right of the machine and 4 to the left. And if you're drilling a great big pantry side, you know, that's full height, you know, that's a lot of holes to drill. You run out of manual stops, you got to rely on the little centering pin, and hopefully it's in the right spot. Otherwise, some of your stuff can get incrementally off. I have the FS 1400 here, which I believe is a 50-inch, or, you know, it's at least 4 feet guide. Now Festool does make I believe it's like a 92-inch guide. I do not have that. It's a purchase for the future. But, you know, for full height pantry cabinets, that's great, because you can lay out basically your stop at the top, your 2 guides, and basically go down the line for the entire length of the cabinet, and you know you're guaranteed they're going to be in a straight line, and they're going to be the same distance apart. There's no chance for error to accumulate. You know, you start off up here and then you wind up being, you know, 1/2 inch off or 1/4 inch off at the bottom, which can cause that wonky misaligned shelf issues. So all in all, I think it's a great system. It lends itself to be on the expensive side. It is made by Festool, and I know a lot of people either love or hate Festool, you know. But I found this system works great. It's not nearly as expensive as some of the hole drilling machines. I believe Grizzly's machine was somewhere like $1,500 or $1,600, and that, I don't think it came with too many stops. And again, it has the same problem. You have to slide the whole thing, and there's a possibility for continuous additional error as you go. The Blue machine, I believe I was told it was somewhere around $2,400 plus. So, you know, this system, I believe, with the rail, the LR-32 system that gave all the guides and the drill bit and the bits and everything, along with the slidey bit that the router sits on, and including the router itself, I believe the total system was like $1,200. But for a system that can be packed up, put away, it doesn't take up any floor space in my shop, which is at a premium. You know, it's a great system. And as long as you're paying attention, if you don't have any dados on the top and you can get that positive stop, you know, then, you know, it's a great system to use. I love using it, like I said, for the precision and accuracy of it. I don't think you can go wrong. So that's a look at the Festool LR-32 hole drilling system. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I will try to get to them. Have a good day.